I am now going to hand over to Yandiswa Xhakaza from the Nalibali Trust. Yandiswa is the CEO of Nalibali, and for many South Africans, Nalibali has become a household name. But Yandiswa will also become a household name as she's taken over the reins just over a year ago. And we welcome you, Yandiswa, and say the floor is open to you to have a conversation with us about the topic of mother language or mother tongue instruction in the South African context. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Quite interesting views from the previous speaker. And it's interesting because, you know, when a new idea is presented, the default is often to defend against it, you know, and to think of all the reasons why it would not work. But quite excited to explore what Africa is presenting and what it could mean for our context, particularly because languages are often attached to a language. What are some of the key variables that contribute towards improved learning outcomes? And I mean, we might all be familiar with those key tenets, right? One of which is expert teacher, right? That's an important variable. So a teacher who's a subject matter expert, classroom management, and just general professionalism, right? That is a contributor to improved learning outcomes. Great teaching resources and material, a conducive teaching and learning environment, parent involvement, intrinsic motivation on the part of the learner, part of the teacher, as well as the parent. These are sort of the generic key variables that we often speak of when we talk about quality education. But can learning outcomes improve if learners were taught in their mother tongue? And that to me is quite an interesting question, because we know that currently our children are taught in mother tongue, or should be taught in their mother tongue in early childhood development centers, as well as foundation phase. And then they transition to being taught in English in grade 4. So does this work? And I'm inclined to say, yes, it does. You know, I'm a case in point. I was taught in Xhakaza in my foundation phase, and right up to grade 4, actually, because there was a lot of the content, yes, was in English, but our teachers were teaching that content in Xhakaza, whether it was geography or whatever the you know, EMS, they would translate it for us quite a lot. And then we fully transitioned to English, where a teacher would also speak English in grade 5. And I did exceptionally well academically. And but the question is still, was I an isolated case? No, I wasn't an isolated case. A lot of my classmates have gone on to do great things and have gone on to excel as well. So can we, though, the question is, can we infer my great academic performance to home language instruction only? Maybe not, right? Maybe other factors were at play. Maybe I would have done well even if I was taught in English, right? But we know that scientific research confirms that home language instruction can result and does result to academic excellence, because a child does not have to translate 10 times before they actually understand a key concept. They are taught a concept in their home language and they immediately get it because it is in their home language. But if it's not, the multiple layers that hinder this child understanding a concept are usually underestimated when you are not a first language speaker of the language you are taught in. And so I do think that if we bring this home and we speak of languages and we say, okay, but what is the importance of home languages actually in the 21st century, in a globalized world, in a globalized economy? where you might be working in a head office in Johannesburg or Cape Town, but you're reporting to a manager in Switzerland or Sweden or wherever in the world, right? And the currency, in fact, is English. That is the world currency. So where does that place home languages, right? And I think it's important for us to ask these difficult questions without being attached to a particular answer that we already hold, because we know and understand that, language is intricately linked to culture and identity. And language informs our way of being, who we are and where we come from, what we do and how we do it. So language helps us shape our experiences and customs as a group of people belonging to a particular language group or a clan or a family. And so there is a case to be made around the importance of our home languages as they pertain to our identity as a people. Um, and 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 there are chants, there are songs, there are behaviors, there are knowledges, there are customs that are unique to a particular language group. So I want to emphasize the point that language helps us connect, with ourselves, with our elders, and it's a language of identity, and that's important. We can't lose our identity at the peril of English and at the peril of understanding English, right? But I want to draw on our experience as Nalibali, which is an organization that works very, very intimately with languages. We provide learning material and we make learning material accessible to communities and children in all 11 official languages. And it has been quite a shock to my system personally, where parents are not interested in books that are written in their home languages, right? In my experience as a school principal, when parents have to choose a language, if there are three first additional languages or, second additional languages, they would not choose their home language. And why is that the case, right? So the language of progression and success, is undeniably English. We are here gathered today speaking in English. We share documents and presentations in English. So English is the professional language. We have all encountered a policy that emphasizes this in the workplace. We speak English. English has been the language of hope and symbolizes advancement towards economic freedom for many parents and for many people. So parents are not too thrilled with their children learning in an African language, as it seems to be taking away from the dreams parents have for their children, right? So English, and not just the understanding of the language, but the ability to speak it well, has often meant that the person speaking English so well is smart, needs to be listened to, knows what they are talking about. And the one that can't speak English so well, the implication is that that person is probably not smart, shouldn't be listened to, and knows nothing about what they are talking about. And we would be lying to ourselves if we have not experienced, watched, or been in rooms where someone who is skilled is just unable to articulate themselves in English, and we judge them on their ability not to be able to speak English, and we extrapolate from that and we think that they are not competent. We use the language to determine whether or not you deserve a seat at the table, right? And these are all the things that parents in communities tell us, that where is this home language going to take my child? I speak the home language and here I am unable to get a job, So these are some of the dynamics that we cannot ignore. And it is convenient for us who are professionals who speak English well to tell these parents, well, let your child be taught in an African language. And their fears are that my child won't be able to get a job. And that's a reality that we need to really grapple with, right? So having said all of that, sort of positioned language as important for identity and culture, but also positioning language as important for just professional growth, for your career progression, and understanding that if you are going to be making waves in the world, you are most likely going to have to speak English, right? Which is why I liked the professor's comments earlier that let's push for bilingual, and it's not a dichotomy. You don't have to, it's not an either or, right? And the rise of online English lessons offered to China, which is a whole industry now. There's a reason for that, right? There's a reason why China is asking the world to offer these English lessons, because there's a need for English. English is a global language. If you're going to do business globally, you better speak English well. And that's a fact. So I want us to always remember that when we think of these things, let's not be married to a solution. Let's also understand the problem so that we solve the problem for what it is. And maybe to just wrap up. So I really strongly believe that it is not a dichotomy. We don't have to choose between English or African languages, right? We have to embrace both. African languages for what they mean for children's identities, and for our identities, and English for what it means for career growth. We can harness both and find the right balance in doing so. Teaching a child in their home language, right through to university, limits that child to their geographic context, right? And I know this might sound a bit, because language is political, and we keep saying, why not have home languages? Why not have teach our children from primary school right up to university in home languages? But what are the limitations of doing that, right? And also, let's not downplay the fact that we have not found translations for some complex subject areas in science, technology, and other streams. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over a couple of years, right? But also, even if we do it, we need to understand what are some of the unintended consequences. What are we limiting our children to if we do that? So let's not allow our good intentions to stifle our children's growth and relevance in a globalized world. So that's my presentation.